Good
Okay.
evening, good afternoon, welcome, good morning. Just waking up here. Morning, Ann. Welcome to the After Hours Show. My name is Joe in Norway. I'll be your cook this evening. I'm joined by Ann Lee, a retired college professor and a community member of the Daily Coast. They're a member of the National Council of Independent Scholars and is a contributor to the book, The Political Economy of Art, Making the Nation of Culture. Evening, Ann.
Hey, Joe, what's for supper?
We've got some engorged vegetables here. No supper. I think I am going to, we've got the holiday coming up here, and traditional Norwegian, two traditional dishes are sweet sour cabbage of red cabbage, usually with bacon and cloves and red currant syrup, or um, Alahanda, which is forget what that one is. Allspice. Always forget allspice. The Christmas flavors. And then there's green cabbage with traditionally with caraway seeds and apple.
Cool.
Asian daikon typically doesn't feature in the dish, but what came in the post this week were some handy dandy fermentation jars. We got some glass
Nice.
weights, nice glass weights
Uh-huh.
to weight them down. Got some extra thick glasses with a kind of pressure valve similar to how our pressure cooker works.
Ah,
This is a one-way valve. So as the carbon dioxide from the fermentation builds up,
mm-hmm.
it only escapes and no air comes in. At least that's what it's written on paper. And this is a kind of like the pressure cooker has a little BB here, a little pellet
Uh-huh.
in a rubber through a hole. You press this down to seal it. And then if the pressure gets too high, it'll pop this thing for safety so the thing doesn't totally explode. So we're going to give these a try. I guess these are popular in Germany.
Nice.
Got so what I thought I would do, I am a real fan of actual sauerkraut that's been fermented properly, not the really sweet vinegar based ones. So we're going to do a little experiment. We're going to try to pickle these. We might get the fermentation started in a few days. We're going to keep it in a warm spot. So we're going to do a half fermentation and then cook it on Christmas Eve, and then we'll see how that is. See what how that alters the flavor a bit. Maybe give us a little bit
Okay.
of a funky kick. I'm hoping. Also, we've been months away from Korea. Kind of jonesing for pickles. So I thought I would make the traditional cubed daikon pickle that you find in all kinds of all restaurants. It's usually self-serve, and that could either be a long fermentation or a short day or so. And they're usually sweet. Could be spicy. It could be just sweet and in a clear brine. But we're going to use the gochujang chili paste, which
Nice.
uses the gochugaru chili from Korea.
Mm-hmm.
This is with all the seeds removed and the veins, so it's not as spicy as it might look. But this is it's like it's like a miso paste, but with tapioca and sugar. So there's a bit of
Mm.
sweetness in that. So we're gonna do that with the cube the daikon with some garlic, grate some garlic and ginger, and then we're just going to shave these babies up separately, and we're gonna do about, you could do 2% salt solution. So for every 100 grams of cabbage, you do 2 grams of salt. But we like to do it a little bit higher, closer to 3. So 2.5 is a good medium, but 3 is usually we like our salt. So I might do a bit 3% salt solution. So we're going to chop all the vegetables up first, get them salted, and then do our seasoning after that and see how it
Okay.
goes.
All right.
I assume it's been yet another uneventful week.
Happy Epstein Friday. It an interesting day. At 3 o'clock today, the Eastern time, the Epstein webpage, I think, appeared or was activated by the Department of Justice. It's
Just like the
it's one
Gmail
that
app.
you can't get to from the yes, pretty much. You can't get to the page from the main DOJ website, so that's even more interesting. Anyway, you can get to it, and the links are out there. The New York Times has a link. Uh, so I was fiddling around for a while in the files, and it does have some pretty explicit stuff if you like listening to how people have sex, I suppose. Um, so it has that, but it's mainly redacted. I mean, most of it is redacted stuff. It's pretty much, or a lot of it is the same stuff that they put into binders in September and tried to pretend that they had really released it when they hadn't. So there's all that that's missing. Um, Needless to say, politicians of the Ro Khanna and Tom Massey are really angry that the law that they passed, that even Trump signed, was supposed to make all of the material available and searchable today. And now they're just, they sent out Todd Blanche, Trump's consigliere, also the deputy attorney general, to say, oh, well, we're not going to do it that way. Well, I think there's going to be lawfare. I think Ro Khanna and Massey are going to sue or whatever.
Would
I'd
those
like
be
to see
just a quick
Pam
question?
Bondi in cuffs.
Mm, Were those the same kind of binders that Republican
Mitt Romney. It's a Mitt
Mitt
Romney
Romney?
binders.
That's
Binders
what I
of
was
women.
looking for.
Pretty much binders of women.
Mm.
I mean, when you look at it, it has the court materials, a lot of redaction, FBI stuff, Freedom of Information Act stuff, which they'd already shown. There's some grand jury stuff, and it's a lot of pages. I mean, but there's also a lot of bullshit. I mean, there's a um, on MS Now, they what's her name, Ruben, their legal person, pulled up a 119-page PDF, and it was all redacted. It was like completely redacted. So you had 119 pages of blanks or black, whatever. And so, needless to say, they're not playing fair or actually acting legally. And I think that it'll be interesting to see whether, you know, obviously it's all the usual kabuki. There's threats um, and of course, those of us who actually went into the thing and sort of looked up some stuff. If you look at and what I was doing was sparing the victims, the survivors of any embarrassment. So I used the material from Virginia Giuffre, her the late uh, Virginia Giuffre, her testimony, and it's pretty explicit. I mean, she talks about group sex. Well, anyway, there's a lot of stuff in there, and she's pretty explicit about Prince Andy and whatever. So there's a lot of corroborating material, even despite the redactions, and that's because the survivors or the estate gave all their information to the lawyers, to the survivors' lawyers, and so the Epstein estate. So there's a lot of material out there that you can sort of cross-check what they have and don't have. So, for example, in the Epstein online thing at Department DOJ, there's the transcript from the trial, the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, and it's pretty explicit stuff. And Giuffre talks about having all kinds of all kinds of trafficking. I mean, it's really explicit. It is purely trafficking. They fly these women around to various places and pass them off to famous guys. It's just it's pretty amazing. And of course, there's already been some material out there that lists. They've identified, the survivors identified 20 or so powerful guys, and that there's all this. It all can be cross-checked. So anyway, it's worth the time if you really want to go through it, but it doesn't really have anything. There's no smoking gun, so to speak, in there, because I think there is a smoking gun, but it's either we're never going to see it, or we're going to have either a whistleblower, some sort of DOJ whistleblower, or else somebody on the survivor's side is going to have to pull up whatever the thing they might have a version of. It would never come out soon. I mean, I think there is a smoking gun, and it's going to come out, and it's already been described. The thing that is going to come out eventually, because it has been described and people have seen it, multiple people have seen it, is a picture of Trump with half-naked girls sitting around him. There's at least one of those images there, and my understanding is you can't redact it. I mean, DOJ cannot redact it. There's no reason to redact it. And besides, there's presidential immunity anyway. So, the pound sand, Trump. Anyway, other things that happened.
So it showed
today,
it operating like a business, basically?
Oh, yeah.
Or
Oh, yeah. It's pretty, I think all this, the more recent politics have just made me much more cynical about all kinds of things, including the legal profession. But I mean, you have to have it in order to survive. On the other hand, it can be abused horribly, and it is. And it's I think it's giving the average citizen a real legal education, if nothing else, to also show the limits of American law. there's a lot of limits built into American law. In other words, Trump can put his name on the Kennedy Center, and there's not a heck of a lot that one can do with it, do about it. Even though, the Kennedy Center was established by Congress, and it is a memorial to John F. Kennedy, and putting Trump's name on it, or Trump having his name put on it, literally put on it. Today they were putting his name on the front of the damn thing. And, it's just sad, I suppose, pathetic in some ways, because Trump is essentially trying to turn Washington, D.C. into Vegas, or Atlantic City, and that just doesn't work so well either. So anyway, and then there was his deranged speech on Wednesday where, and I'll quote Tom Nichols, it drenched in pure panic as he tried to bully an entire nation into admitting he's doing a great job. And it is worth actually listening to it or viewing it just for a couple of seconds to see that he's really yelling at the camera. I mean, and he's essentially doing one of his rally speeches, and there's no audience, so he has no way to sort of respond. So he just keeps yelling, and it's a little sad, if nothing else. Whoever wrote it for him, because it is a compression of his rally speeches. It's either what's his name, Anton, or Michael Anton, or Stephen Miller wrote the damn thing, and I mean, you can actually tell their style. It's really a kind of pathetic combination of facts or lies, and there were so many lies that by the time Daniel Dale over at CNN put out his fact check, it was just pretty extensive. But I urge you to look at the CNN page of her Daniel Dale. He really always does a good, he just reality is always so different than a Trump speech. Anyway, so there was that. That was on Wednesday.
Oh, pace yourself
Today,
there.
or
I think it's going to
yesterday,
take me a little while. No rush.
okay. Well, there's plenty of information. There's plenty of stuff out there. I mean, as a sidelight, a little amuse bouche, poor bastard who shot up a Brown University classroom. It really looks like it's a very sad tale. That is, the guy who's a Portuguese national apparently was a classmate, a graduate. Well, he was a classmate, or he went to the same university as the MIT professor who got shot. So this was all connected. It was interesting to see that some people were speculating how they were connected, and they are connected. So apparently I don't know if the guy who at MIT was at Brown at the same time, but they knew each other from undergraduate school 20 some odd years ago, or they must have known each other, because they're both in the same field. They're both physicists in that sense. So anyway, the classroom gets shot up on one day, and then a couple of days later the professor gets shot, and then today, or last night, this morning, they found the guy that he committed suicide. He shot himself in a storage facility in New Hampshire. So there's they're tracking all the things down, and in fact, the cops only discovered this because some guy on Reddit, of all places, noticed that he'd actually had a little kerfuffle with the killer that day, the day of the shooting, of the massacre, and so they managed to figure out his license plate. They sort of tracked down from that. They got all his other information: the rental car, the hotels. he was driving a car with Florida plates, and he had been living in Florida, I guess. That's another unclear part of this thing. But I think as the picture goes, this guy was, with all due respect, out there. I can say that because he's not with us anymore. Um, but they were showing us the video of him wandering, sort of casing the joint in Providence, because they had video from all kinds of. It's amazing how much video is out there. You think that you're not really being surveilled, but once they decide to gather up all this video, it's amazing how much video is there from doorbell cameras, surveillance cameras, um, yard cameras, all of those things were part of this little story here, and tracking the guy down. So anyway, 48-year-old former graduate student, needless to say, kills himself after killing someone he knew, and shooting up a classroom at random, killing two people, two undergraduates. So that's the kind of story that is. Uh, it did show a lot of interagency cooperation. I mean, you could see that, sort of everyone was getting along with everyone else in terms of the Rhode Island Attorney General, uh, the U.S. Attorney in Boston. All these things were kind of going on at the same time, and they were pretty forthcoming about trying to get information and evidence, and it kind of went on sort of okay, although they got thrown off by, of course, Kash Patel saying they'd got a person of interest. Well, they did, but he was totally unrelated to this whole activity, and they were still sorting out the video, I think, when they got whoever they got. The story will be clearer, I think, as it moves forward. Um, um, anyway, so that happened. That's a kind of a sidelight. Now, the interesting thing, of course, is that the professor is really an up and comer in terms of plasma research at MIT. He had his own little thing, and but he was also into fusion. And coincidentally, the um, Trump uh, uh, Trump Media Technology Group, the TMTG, decided that it would do a merger with TAE, which makes or is doing research on fusion reactors. So now they don't have an actual reactor working yet. I mean, this is all speculative, and it's very speculative in the sense that let's see, the TAE has some Kuwaiti money in it. Google had put through some money at it, but this little attempt to merge the two, TAE and TMTG, is essentially a grift. It's a grab. They're gonna try and con people out of money. They've already overvalued it. They're trying to, it could be a pump and dump, but it's probably not a pump and dump. What it probably is they're just going to drag in a lot of money, and some people are speculating in the business press that they're going to
Is crypto based?
they're going to do an IPO on this and get even more money after the split or whatever, or sell it off. And oh no, it's not crypto based, but uh, uh, it's within the umbrella of the $ DJT, Bitcoin thing. So it's all kind of interconnected. And my speculation is that it's going to be a big, it's money laundering will occur. And unless you think that I just make this stuff up, or it's a conspiracy theory, there's a lot of discussion in this in kind of the business press. So this it's so blatantly corrupt that on the other hand, when you look up TAE, and you should, TAE engineering or whatever it is, you'll be able to see that it has an interesting research model. Although their first model their proof of concept was done with a sewer pipe. So that sounds a little too, sort of garage engineering, but it isn't. They seem fairly serious, and they do have a couple of sub projects that are kind of interesting. So it's not all, fusion is the future and it's Pons and Fleischmann and blah blah blah. No, I mean when you look at the whatever those who know more about physics can figure this out. And I'm sorry that MAC is not here to discuss it, but they seems like it's a proof of concept wise that it's a decent idea, and that they're building up a way to get this to actually work. But as I said, they don't have an actual energy producing reactor yet. So I think they have a site chosen, and they say they're going to have something, but it's pretty. I don't think they've broken ground on it. So it's more, it's vaporware in that sense. So there's that. No, but we got to that from fusion. I mean, the idea is the guy who got killed at MIT was a fusion guy, was really actually doing a lot of work in plasma and fusion. So that's kind of the weird little coincidence that went on there. Let's see, what the hell else? I mean, there's plenty that's happened already there. Uh,
Was this a
oh,
star-crossed lover spat or something? Or
well, I don't know.
we don't
It
know.
seems like it might be, but it's very unclear. I think we'll get more about it, because I mean, when you look at I mean, it could be a thing, and whatever it is pretty clear that the killer was out there, was having a psychotic break of some kind, because he was really doing lots of strange stuff, and um, it's just the curse of genius, I suppose. Anyway, so we'll know more soon. I mean, it's only been a couple of days since guy got murdered, guy commits suicide, cops are everywhere doing their thing. So that's interesting. What else happened this week? The labor market lost 41,000 jobs over October and November. And we know these numbers despite the fact that Trump tried to, and was also the shutdown, to hide the data so that there really weren't any numbers coming out. But you can figure out the numbers from other things, and which is what people do anyway. And so we're in a very terrible state. And the inflation, no, the unemployment rate is now 4.6. That is, it's 0.6 more than when Trump started. So that's a problem, and it's a little more complicated than that, but that's part of the week. We're going to war, I think. Well, we are definitely going to stop embargoed tankers from Venezuela if, and this is the interesting question, if and only if they have oil going to China, which you can't sort of prove when you pull these guys over. This is not like a traffic stop. I mean, you pull over a tanker, you look at the damn paperwork, and the shadow fleets run with really bizarre paper. You can read this online. You can see how enforcement of flagging tankers or ships is really, a shady business. That, it's why do you have these kind of weird countries that have, you're flagging it on Gabon or whatever. So that's another issue. For example, the one they pulled over, seized, the tanker that they seized, the one called Skipper, had a different name before, when it was from oil from Iran to China. But that was a while back. It was a couple of years ago. And sort of the claim is that the sanction they had on the ship still carries over somehow. There's a lot of, it's all, as I said at the beginning, there's a lot of lawfare about this. People, it's a lot of, it's all buried in paperwork. So they haven't yet pulled over another. They haven't seized. The U.S. Navy has not seized a tanker yet. But I expect that they will, because the more we get annoyed by the Department of Justice holding up on the Epstein stuff, there's going to be pressure for Trump to do what everyone, a significant number of people expected. I mean, some pretty important people actually really expected Trump on Wednesday to announce that we were at war with Venezuela. So much so that there was actually a lot of,
China, you mean? China,
around.
right? We're at war with China.
No,
Oh,
no, we are at war with China, but no, I mean that we were going to actually try regime change. We are going to try and kick Maduro out. I mean that discourse was framed by at the beginning of the week, the beginning of the weekend, the end of the weekend, that Susie Wild, the chief of staff, and she used to be the campaign chair for Trump. She was also in the room when Trump started showing pilfered documents, some of the stuff that he stole, that stole from, whatever, from his term one. And some of them are classified information. And it seems that he did show a classified thing while he was, and this didn't happen at Mar-a-Lago. This happened at Bedminster. But Susie Wild was in the room, so there's a good reason to subpoena her at some moment when they get back to this issue, because they're going to get back to this issue of the fact that he stole nuclear. They say today, Jack Smith mentioned that Trump had stolen at least 3 nuclear related documents. Nuclear weapons documents, I suppose, that are undoubtedly classified. So, and he still has them. I mean, that's the whole other thing is, they would the government.
so this is like the
back.
first administration behavior, where
Right.
he pilfered a bunch of
Yeah.
documents and shuffled them down to Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, this is the same bunch. It's just that Trump had this tendency to carry stuff around with him when he travels. So these little boxes go along with him. And apparently, one of these things that he likes to show off, I don't know what it is, but as I said, it is. He was showing. We recall that he was his earlier event where he liked to show classified documents off there was a satellite image of a failed Iranian missile launch. It was fully classified, that Trump decided he'd show to people during the first administration. So one can expect that he has similar kinds of documents, sort of in his little trench of his treasure trove of stuff that he's stolen from the government, that he's still holding on to. Of course, now that he's president again, you don't have to question him. I mean, it's all, well, we can't prosecute him, and he's the commander in chief, and blah blah blah. So that's where we are with that. Anyway, so as I said, on Wednesday, a lot of folks thought that he was going to declare war on Venezuela, and if he did that and seized an actual Chinese tanker, which there are no actual Chinese tankers that are transporting this oil. This oil seems, the oil that got nabbed, got seized, stolen from the Venezuelans was going to go to somewhere, either Europe, or no, it was going to go to China, but it had been involved in other things, shadow fleet stuff that was mainly in sort of Europe and Middle East sort of stuff. Anyway, as I said, these are there's a shady business occurs with these shadow tanker fleets. That is, they don't turn their transponders on, so you don't know what the identity of a particular tanker is not very clear. I mean, it doesn't mean that the thing disappeared.
This is to
It's just
avoid
that you can't.
sanctions,
Right.
to skirt the sanctions regime.
Yes. And the tanker that they nabbed was a technically a sanctioned thing, whatever. Um, as I said, it the tanker had a different name a couple of years ago, and so I think there was an original sanction that was on the original name of what the tanker was called then, named then. It has a different name now. So anyway, I know that sounds very complicated, but there are 400 some odd tankers running around with um, illicit oil or Russian oil that goes somewhere. And they're not, it's Russian oil in Greek hulls. A significant number of the 400 some odd tankers out there, I think half of them are Greek tankers. So there's tankers, there's oil, there's multiple flagging, there's sanctions. All of that's
And there's
going on.
this, and there's this contraband. Oh goodness, we were able to get fresh garlic from Turkey.
Cool. Look at that. Look at that
Right.
blossom. Look at that blossom. Ooh, nice.
Perfect. Oh, nice.
uh, Democrats tried to do a war powers thing, tried to stop an anticipated attack
Oh,
or
before you go on,
declaration of war on Venezuela. Anyway, carry on. Sorry.
so for fresh garlic, just cut the tip off or the end, and then peel it back, and it should the shell is very thick, so it'll just come off very nicely. Super easy, much
Nice.
easier than dried garlic.
Oh, indeed.
Back to
Me,
you.
I'm too lazy to cut my own garlic, and I buy it in jars.
Oh,
But
I suppose it may be more cost effective, and especially depends on how many you cook for and how often you
oh
cook
yeah.
with it. So,
Oh no, I mean there's nothing better than fresh garlic, but you know, I mean I did that this evening when I actually made soup. Anyway.
so I'm just grating ginger, garlic, and then we'll put the chili paste in. And this one is just about done. You want to leave them, leave the vegetables to sit in salt brine for you know, at least about a half hour before you pack them away. They should get softer.
So your
Uh,
salt brine is something like
hmm.
1 to 10 or something?
It's like 3% of the weight.
Okay.
And then for the lighter vegetables, like I don't know, paprika, you could go down towards 2%, anywhere from 2 to 3 for the hard vegetables. Usually 2.5 to 3% salt solution. And then you would normally
Okay.
add
Go ahead.
sugar or mirin to this, but the gochujang paste has fair amount of sugar in it. Tapioca syrup, brown rice. Yeah.
While you're doing that, the Congress actually tried to stop or to head off any particular invasion, but we didn't get an announcement of invasion. All we got was an announcement that there is a quote unquote embargo on oil from um, from Venezuela, And Trump's claim, because he's incredibly deluded, is that it's quote unquote our oil. But the reality is, of course, and this happened 40 years ago or whatever, the Venezuelan government nationalized its oil companies. And so,
Is that what they're talking about by they stole our shit? Is that
yeah,
the nationalization of Venezuela's own oil reserves
right.
was stealing from the United States via their corporations?
Well, the stupid
Crazy.
rhetorical element was that in the Wednesday rant, or whatever. Oh no, this was a comment that he made before he's getting on the plane or got off the plane, and he said, "Well, it's our oil," and and in the speech he mentions land. It's like we don't own, the United States owns no land in Venezuela. Now, it might have been corporate, concessions and blah, 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 but it's already a national. When oil gets nationalized, usually some concessions get made and lawyers get involved, and it usually isn't quite as bad as you think, mainly because, the oil market is moderately interrelated, is networked. So, there are constraints on the whole market. On the other hand, the fact that there are constraints allows for the entire shadow fleet thing to happen, which is still happening. But it is kind of tricky, needless to say. But needless to say, rhetorically, Trump thinks that, or at least whoever wrote the speech for him, put in land, and Trump has got it in his head that American land was stolen by the Venezuelans, which it wasn't. It's not our oil. It's their damn oil. I mean, it, but uh, Trump's simple mind, just as much like his comment after the Iraq War, was that we should have taken the oil or whatever. It's it's just the weirdest thing. It's really quite out there. Um, anyway, so yes, so we almost had a war, but we didn't. We're not. We still could have a war. Whenever they decide they're going to either arrest Maduro or, uh, launch some preliminary attack. We have an entire satellite blanket over Venezuela. There's a combat air patrol cap, essentially, that the Venezuelans have actually challenged. They sent up a couple of F-16s to sort of screw with the American fleet last week or week before last, and so that was amusing. But they were clearly just screwing with them. In other words, the F-16s weren't even armed when they did they kind of buzzed the U.S. fleet. The U.S. fleet got pissed off and sent up some F-18s to you know uh, head them off, not really to knock them down, but simply to ward them off, to say you really shouldn't do that. Um,
So have
but
they only
it,
closed off airspace? They've not created no flight zones like they did with
it's
Iraq?
not a pure, well, it's a quasi no fly zone, but they did for a moment, like a week ago, they had told a whole bunch of flights not to go through a certain corridor, which was how they were, organizing where they were putting all their air assets or whatever. And
Mhm.
also during the times when they've been flying B-52s sort of near Venezuela, just to remind them that there are B-52s that could, bomb the heck out of Venezuela. So there are these things. And to quote Susie Wiles, he's just going to blow up boats until Maduro cries uncle. And that's really not what's going to happen, but it's sort of interesting to see it framed that way. That Susie Wiles, in her interview, Vanity Fair interview, uh, mentions is actually quite frank about various things, but I think she also did it to or that it was released at a kind of a timely way because the Epstein files. You can see how multi-layered this activity has been for the last week. We have um, tanker embargoes. We have Epstein files. We have declarations of all kinds, including, Trump putting his name on stuff. So it's been a busy week. It's and I wrote a little thing because I thought that the thing on Wednesday was actually an infomercial for the TrumpRx.org, no, TrumpRx.gov website, which is it's very similar to what Kushner tried to do during COVID, and that is gain not a monopoly, but at least corner the market on information. So the TrumpRx.gov site is meant to steer you to the lowest prices, which is BS, but it's amusing because it resembles the same kind of information sort of hijacking that occurred during COVID when Kushner said, "Well, we put together this entire data thing that's going to organize how COVID, materials are going to be distributed and blah blah blah." And that got shot down mainly because it was pretty clear it was a grift. But you know, so the same thing is happening. It just is, it's part two, except that it's now called Trump RX, which is supposed to give you, quote unquote, the lowest prescription prices, or to direct you to places where prescriptions are lower, which on the one hand could be a good thing. On the other hand, it's just it's clear that this kind of manipulating information is meant to direct your attention. Not in It's not always designed around price. Let's put it that way. Or to give you a different example, it's like Amazon, right? You have dynamic price changing and in real time that's meant to sort of influence you and kind of manipulate stuff. And so imagine trying to do that for an entire country. And obviously, if they steer you in the right direction, some people are going to make a lot of money. And so that's kind of what's going on. Lots of money being made, whether it's nuclear, uh, uh, fusion reactors, Bitcoin. Um,
I can't get my
it's just
and I can't. I'm stuck. I can't get my fist out.
good grief.
Oh, tell me about it with that variable price changing here in Norway. You got to skedaddle through the shopping center because we've got all of the grocers have digital displays, so they can be changing about 30 to 70 times a day throughout the day. So
Yeah.
if they see you buying coffee, you better hurry up to the milk if you're putting cream or in your coffee, or they're gonna jack it up.
Well, it's interesting that has yet to be fully implemented. I mean, in the sense that we don't yet have markets that can give you, well, I guess you do Norway, but United States, they don't, you can't do that yet. They don't have
Mm.
a thing that gives you dynamic price changing. It's very similar to dynamic pricing for
Is
what
that
is it,
is that because of state
theater seats or
regulations?
sporting event seats. No,
Um,
it's because people haven't quite figured out how to rip other people off yet. And I mean, the where it's
in the
operative
states? Come
is
on.
at a kind of in the States. It's limited. Let's say it's not limited by government. It's just limited because it requires a lot of sort of thinking and capital and stuff. I think it's limited only to sports tickets, for example, sporting tickets or big event tickets, and you have dynamic pricing that sort of goes on. It's meant to sort of thwart ticket scalping, but and it sort of does, but all it does is it puts the the scalping of the tickets back in closer toward towards the dominant ticket because there's only one or two ticket. It's a cartel essentially that runs, or I guess it's a cartel. It's not a full monopoly, but there is a dominant. When you buy a ticket for an event, a movie or a sporting event, or whatever, there's really only one or two ticket vendors in the United States. And so there's a whole monopoly thing going on there. And that's kind of monopoly pricing is what's going, or oligopoly pricing is what's going on. Anyway, sorry. I've been yammering on. It's
That's all
it's
right.
schedule time. What's
We
on
got one.
tonight? Oh, carry on.
Don't
What?
ask me. I got one more round of cabbage to get to here. We got
Oh,
last
well,
one.
while you're purple cabbage, yum.
I put the schedule in the chat link
Oh, cool.
for the week. We can just take
Now
the
if I
link.
just now if I just look at the chat, I'll be oh, criminy. Anyway,
Now
Marty
that
is
now
on
that I'm thinking
Saturday
about
night.
it, I think I could have graded apples in both of these.
Oh,
Since
that
it's
would
just
be
going to
good.
ferment for a couple days, that would have been smarter.
That's
Maybe I could
good.
do that. Why don't we do that now?
Indeed.
Let's do that.
Well, I mentioned Marty at 7 o'clock on Saturday. I don't know if Susanna is here to talk about that, but let's do this in order. Friday night, uh,
Oh,
John
Lane
is
isn't
here.
around. We can go out of order if we want. We can change things
If
up at
John is
will.
here, can he could talk about night gallery, the latest night gallery thing, and after night gallery tonight is the penultimate, I guess, episode of Poker Face. So, John, if you're there.
Out of order. I'll show you out of order. Um, yes, tonight on Night Gallery we have a episode called The Late Mr. Peddington. And it stars Harry Morgan and Kim Hunter. And
Cool.
also a young Randy Quaid.
Oh my.
Yes, we're going to learn
Before he
about
got a
Mr.
beard and
Quaid.
turned weird.
Yeah.
Turned weird.
Very weird. Weird beard. There you go.
All righty. So I don't know if Travis wants to talk about Poker Face. As I said, it's the penultimate one. The next to the last one in the second season. And I can't recall, but they're gonna have a third season. I don't know. But it's not going to be on the same network. So I think if it continues on, it's going to be on another stream or whatever streaming service. So that's coming up in this evening. As I said, Marty by Patty Chayefsky is with us on Saturday night at 7. Susanna, you want to talk about it for a moment?
Yes, thanks, Hanley. Yeah, so this is a superb film, and it will lead us into the holiday season. Patty Chayefsky, of course, won 3 Oscars. He's the only screenwriter to win 3 Oscars individually, and this was his first Oscar win. And while we know him from Network, we know him from Hospital, as dark and as satirical as he can be. This one is this is quite a heartwarmer and a very important film as well. And also, I've got a lot of backstories on this film, including
Well,
our leading lady who was blacklisted and yet worked in this film. Betsy Blair, Mrs. Jean Kelly at the time. So join me. And thanks a lot, Anne.
thank you, Susanna. I think Lane is not here, so let's talk about let's just do this in order. Sunday, it's Star Trek: The Next Generation at 5 o'clock on Sunday. John, you want to talk about the episode coming up?
Yes, I do. It is called The Hunted, and I think it's a pretty good episode. It raises the question of how do you treat the people who fight for your government
Mm,
after they're no longer useful to you?
indeed. Raises many questions at domestic
Rude?
politics.
Is this the Soylent Green crossover episode?
No, no, it isn't that extreme.
Oh God. And that raises an interesting question about a whole bunch of other issues, but we can't talk about them now. We shouldn't talk about them now. So Monday, Nate is reading, and we are reading together Palo Alto, that's history of essentially California, and it's really quite a good read and quite an interesting story. It's directed in an interesting way. Let's put it that way. It it puts certain things that aren't usually paid attention to, sort of intersectional discourse is sort of included in it. It's important, I think, to remember that California history is incredibly multi-layered, and that we often don't get that complete history. The which is truly interesting in the sense of California's position in the nation. So if you look at for example, history of Randolph Hearst, you can see how complicated California's place in the nation is, because Hearst, on the one hand, gets all his money, from stuff in the West, but essentially wants to control the media empire in the East. So it's I mean, if you want to indulge yourself, I think the biographies or the histories of the Hearst family, William Randolph Hearst, is actually quite interesting from a California point of view. That is, that there's all these things that seem familiar from a California point of view, but you've got to remember, oh no, he's screwing around with New York newspapers at another point in his lifetime. So that's an interesting idea, and that happens at 8 o'clock? I don't know. Are you going to show slides, Joe?
Yeah, I'll probably do that at 7. Did I do it at 7 last time? Yeah. Dig through
I
my
think so.
travel log. We'll see. Anybody have a preference? Greece, Turkey, Spania, Dubai, UAE, Oman, Abu Dhabi. Did I say India,
Nice.
Thailand, South Korea, Japan?
I would say
Oh.
pick the most repressive country.
Oddly enough, I find the authoritarian countries I have traveled through seem much less so than the states. The states are appearing more and more on paper less authoritarian, but not in
Well,
practice.
America's much more performative about it. So, our thuggishness comes out in very weird ways, like all the people who seem to be criminals who are members of ICE, which is very distressing, if nothing else.
Well, if you think
But
about it,
I
though,
think
I think about the overwhelming vast population being suburbanite and
mm,
tending to work in private unaccountable tyrannies, otherwise corporations. They are
mhm,
living most of their day in a tyranny. You have
right.
the dressings of freedom in a lot of respects. You don't have, well, we do have the FEMA camps now, but
Oh yes.
there's a very small window in a person's life where they can actually be revolutionary or challenge the status quo in any one nation. Um, and I, it's an issue.
True dat. True dat. I mean, I thought that in the last presidential administration we were going to get rid of private prisons, but apparently they're back. Uh, the whole business of our little immigration policy, such as it is meant to prop up private prisons. But anyway, and of course, who owns stock in private prisons? But certain people in the administration actually own stock in the two big private uh, prison corporations. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Bruce, do you want to talk about the Red Hour on Tuesday?
Yes, it's technically won't be a red hour. Red hour's on hiatus till January 5th.
Ah, right.
But Tuesday is December 23rd is Festivus. So we'll delve into the history of Festivus. It does have a literary genesis, so I'll explain that. And we'll celebrate.
Bring your grievances.
Yeah, so be prepared to air your grievances and perform feats of strength.
Oh boy.
That will be.
Did you see me strangle these cabbages?
There we go.
Okay.
Those are pretty cool little
So
covers.
that'll be Tuesday
Anyway,
at what time is that? That's at 6
7,
o'clock our
7
time.
o'clock Eastern?
7 o'clock
Or are you going
Eastern.
to
Yeah, 7 o'clock
Eastern
Eastern.
time? Yeah.
Come for the Festivus, eh? Yeah.
That's good, James. That's very good. You're going to do the opening on Tuesday.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, let's
Oh.
switch around here. There we go. And we've got our red cabbage, and we're still on
Right.
schedule. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm just going to conclude by saying, I do office hours on Wednesday. And, I've been plodding through a book on subsumption, but I'm actually going to shift forward. There's another book I came across that is much more current that talks about, what is it, techno-feudalism, I think. So we'll do that the week after that. I'm going to try and do all 3 or 4 chapters on of this other book that we're doing on subsumption on Wednesday, and then next week, the week after, we will try and do a thing. I have at least one article on techno-feudalism, so it's addressing Yanis Yorvakis. Anyway, so there's that, and that's our schedule, and we're close to getting out of here.
Yeah,
Carry on, Joe, with you wanted to conclude on your pickling.
yeah. So we got some glass lids or glass weights. Not they don't match these jars. We got them for the smaller jars we have, but just trying them out. So you want to keep your vegetables below the liquid line. So I'll let this sit for a little bit and then tamp it down again and try to get everything
Cool.
below the water.
Mhm.
We've got red
Very buttery.
red cabbage and apple,
Actually, you're right.
and this is just plain old green cabbage and salt. And these are the daikon cubes
For the
with
Festivus.
gochujang chili paste. And these could be anywhere from a day in the
Gochujang.
brine to weeks, whatever you like. And we're experimenting, so I'll end up cooking this for the Norwegian cabbage dishes, which
What's it called?
hopefully
Gochujang?
gochujang. Gochu
That
gochujaro is
Gochujang.
the
go to. Gochujang.
yeah, just a moment. Get it.
I don't know. If I ate that, I might have to go to John.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got here. Can you read
There we
that,
go.
James? Gochujang. And this is
All right.
Sumjang. Sumjang is another one. This is with
Was
gochujang
it
and
sweet or
this
no?
one. This one is sweet. So
Spicy?
this is a Finnish condiment. Sumjang is a Finnish condiment. Gochujang is like spicy miso, and then
Okay.
dobojang, kind of like in Chinese Mandarin, is the fermented soybeans. So that's the miso.
Wow.
Right.
Dobojang. So this is a bit of dobojang plus the chili.
Yum.
Yum,
Mm.
as they would say. Yum.
Believe that's the show.
I think so. Although Harsh just asked which is better, sambal or gochujang. Anyway, we'll try and do better.
Oh.
We'll try and do
Yep.
better next week. Bye.
We still live?